If you're a buyer of coaching, or if you're a coach, you might want to know, how can you tell very easily the difference between someone who calls himself a coach and really isn't, someone who's a credible and useful and able coach, to the higher levels of coaching performance? Good questions. And of course the whole coaching profession, if I can call it that, is clouded with enormous numbers of coaching technologies coming from different disciplines or methodologies, perhaps might be a more accurate word, and also brands, if you like, focused on different areas, different sectors. So you have coaching that's delivering just for leadership, or just for managerial competence, or just for emotional intelligence, and so forth. And that's all very well, but it does make it very difficult for people selling coaches and for people buying coaches to know what on earth they're getting. So how can you tell? Well, what I'd like to share with you today is some observations that I have made over some years about how you tell the difference between the pseudo coach, average coach, good coach, brilliant coach. And I have a bit of track record in coaching myself, and I have published this book, Performance Coaching, and this one with Will Thomas, Performance Coaching Toolkit, plus 50 or 60 papers on coaching in the international press. What I've observed is at the lowest level of coaching, whether it's one-to-one or whether it's coaching skills being used by managers and leaders at work, and whether they know it or not, there are plenty of managers and leaders actually using coaching skills. They don't necessarily have the nomenclature for that. When these skills are being used at the lowest possible level within a coaching context, then what we're looking at is intellectual responses. So in other words, what's happening is there are questions rather than telling or leading, and those questions lead to intellectual thought and responses. It's a managerial training, if you like, supporting, coaxing, developing conversation between two people. At the next level, imagine that the questions have become harder, they're perhaps more stretching, and then what we see in the coachee is that they pause. So there's intellectual thought, it's still active. They haven't gone to sleep, they haven't gone anywhere, they're still there, very active, but there are short pauses, perhaps only for half a second, maybe a little longer, while they access information. It's still very active, though, in terms of how they look within that scenario. The next level of coaching, we see short periods of a different type of pause. And these are pauses where the individual is going into deeper level accessing, not just of information, but of experience. And that may or may not be overlaid with some emotional registration, some visual activity going on, accessing different types of information, but at a deeper level. Now it's characterized by very different physiology than the intellectual thought that we'd seen before. In this case, during those pauses, when they're quiet, instead of being alert and connected and perhaps looking at the coach, the first thing we notice is that the eyes are defocused. They're defocused into the middle distance. Now they may or may not move before they stop and defocus. They may just stay where they are, they may drop slightly, but that's the first thing we notice in those pauses. We'll also notice that already, even at that stage, there is absolutely no movement. So if a coachee, if an individual has been coached, asked one of these questions, they go into this deeper level introspection, this self-reflective space. As they go into that, if they've had a little movement going on, perhaps a leg moving or a hand moving or a thumb moving, that will stop, and that will happen within half a second or so. That will stop. At the level 3 then, level 3 of the coaching skills, if you like, this is the first level when the deeper level processing has taken place. Now there's at least one further level, and this is also a deeper level processing, but for longer periods of time. So I'd say more than perhaps 2 seconds, second and a half, 2 seconds, and it can last for many seconds, could even last for a minute or more. Now in this case the signs are identical. Any physical movement stops. There's a focus of the eyes into the middle distance, but in the longer periods of this deeper self-reflective space we also see other things. Typically, because the muscles are relaxing, we see a tilt of the head. It may be obvious, but if it isn't, the other thing we may see is whites under the eyes just being more visible as the head tilts slightly. There may be a slackening in the jaw. There may be a change in the pallor as less and less blood hits the peripheral tissues. The other thing for those coaches who are very alert is that the breathing will go lower and lower and lower until it becomes literally imperceptible. Very, very low level of breathing. So literally pretty much all the oxygen in the body is now rushing into the brain and is supplying the brain with enough energy in order to process at these levels. Now you might say, well, why is that exquisite coaching? Why is that the best coaching? And the answer is that in those spaces of self-reflection, that's where you're most likely to get the biggest levels of new perception, sometimes called catharsis. So you get a really huge level of new perception, and invariably that is accompanied by a whole lot of motivation, massive motivation. So I hope what I've provided for you is a means of being able to see hire coaches on the basis of their skills and to know what it is you're getting. But remember also that a good coach can be told at what level you want them to coach. Remember too that if you don't have an objection to deeper level processing and you only want coaching at an intellectual level, provided a coach can go all 4 levels, they can work at the level you want. You can specify what you want. But if you want the highest level of coaching performance, then you probably want to go to level 4, certainly to level 3. I hope that helps, and thank you for listening. Thank you.